ago, before my son Ben got married, he asked Richard and me what the secret was to a happy marriage. I immediately said, unconditional love. And Richard said, low expectations. Followed by separate bathrooms and a king-size bed. So, those last two were fine, but my immediate response was, low expectations? Really, Richard? Is it that bad for you? I mean, it sounded as if he had given up all hope. And he said, no, that's not what I meant. He said, what I meant was that if you have low expectations, you're never disappointed. And then whatever comes your way is a gift. I thought, okay, there's truth in that. I see that. Whenever we expect others to be or act a certain way, you could say we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. And Dean Slider talks about this in his book that we are studying these 5 Sundays, the Zen Commandments. And he refers to this practice. It's actually the 7th of the 10 suggestions he offers for a life of inner freedom. He calls it no appointment, no disappointment. So in other words, let go of your expectations. See, don't bank on things to be a certain way. He says this, if you don't build your world on expectations, it doesn't collapse when things turn out different. This is not resignation, but liberation. Liberation. To let go of our expectations. We all have expectations. Many of them are integral to our daily lives. We expect the sun to come up in the morning. We expect our hearts to be beating. We expect the church to be here when we pull into the parking lot. We expect the lights to come on when we flip the switch, right? And so many other things. Really simplifies our lives to know to expect those things. But we also have other expectations, and these are expectations that we place on ourselves and others about how to be and how to act. And the underlying belief is that if these expectations are met, we'll be happy. We'll be happy. And so, for example, we might have an expectation for ourselves that we're going to be wildly successful, or we're going to be famous, or we're going to be spiritually enlightened. We might expect others to love us in the way we want them to. We may expect life to turn out the way we have planned. Can you see how with each of those we could be setting ourselves up for disappointment? So most of us have heard that saying, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him or her your plans, right? Yeah, because life doesn't work that way. And Dean Slider sort of rephrases that. He says, we build models of the future in our minds, but the actual world has a mind of its own. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner that we can live in peace and freedom. Yes, that what is, is. So, there's really nothing wrong with having expectations. It would be hard to not have expectations, to live without them. The problem occurs when we stake our happiness on them. When we say, this is the way it has to be in order for me to be fulfilled or for my dreams to come true. And when we put that much importance on it, we tend to kind of cling on, kind of white knuckle it, right? It's got to be this way. It doesn't have to be that way. And quite often, it isn't that way. It isn't that way at all. We may think that we need this to be happy, but even that isn't true. But because this particular thing didn't materialize the way we expected, it doesn't mean we'll never be happy. It just means we need to accept what is and make some adjustments. When I got married the first time, I really expected that was going to be forever. I did. It was built on this dream and expectation that I would live happily ever after with my husband and our 2 children. Well, it didn't work out that way. What was so hard for me was not only that I lost the marriage, but I lost the dream of how my life would be. I lost a vision of what happiness would look like. And I remember feeling like when that occurred, that it felt like someone had taken my life and ripped it up into 1,000 pieces and thrown it up in the air. But I had to let go of my expectations, my old expectations, in order to be open to new possibilities. I had to be willing to accept what is and then move on from that. You see, life is unpredictable. Life is never the way we think it's going to be. It's never the way we plan for it to be, well, maybe once in a while. But by and large, life has a mind of its own, as they say. But here's the thing. We don't have to rise and fall with every up and down that occurs in our lives. We don't have to make that the center of our existence or our identity and go through these tumultuous occurrences. On the spiritual path, it's the beauty of the spiritual path. We can learn to keep our balance. We can learn that the source of happiness isn't simply being. It's in simply being. Outer things come and go, good and bad things happen to us, but we are that larger presence. I had a Buddhist teacher in Portland, Oregon. I really loved this one thing she said to me. I've never forgotten it. She said, freedom is in knowing yourself as the clearing in which everything is allowed to arise and pass. Everything is allowed to arise and pass. You see, we are not what happens to us. We are the I am of pure presence. When we know ourselves as that, we are that clearing in which everything is allowed to arise and pass. Can you feel even how centering it is to have that thought? Things will come and go, but our happiness is not directly related to those things. It's in the great I am presence. You see, the more we anchor ourselves in that, the more we know ourselves in that, the more we frequent that consciousness and live from that consciousness, the easier it is for us to let go of our attachment to how things should be. Right? It is easier for us to accept what is. Of course, we will always have our preferences. We will always have our wishes. But what we learn is to sort of hold them lightly. Hold them lightly. Of course, we may dedicate ourselves to it, but if circumstances change, we know we can let go of that and make a course correction. You see, all of this helps us when we know ourselves as spirit, when we know ourselves as divine beings, we can more easily accept what is. And this is so vitally important. Because what is. Really, it is. It is. And no amount of whining or complaining or protesting or resisting is going to change it. It is, as they say, it is what it is. And so we always have a choice, you see. Are we going to accept that or are we going to resist it? And the problem is a lot of times we do resist it, and when we resist, we make it worse. When we resist what is, in fact, we suffer. So here's a small but I believe illustrative example. Last week, I went into Harris Teeter to buy some groceries, just a few things. And when it came time to pay, I gave the cashier I actually took my debit card and put it in the machine, and it rejected my card. That is very strange. I had plenty of money in the account. The card worked a few days ago. Tried it again. Clearly, my card was not working. Now, at this point, I had two choices. Just as you have choices when presented with any outer occurrence or event, I could either accept it or I could resist it. The accepting response would be, oh, my card is not working. I better get in touch with the bank and figure out what is going on. Meanwhile, I'll pay in cash and go on our merry way. The resisting response is, I can't believe my card's not working. It has to work. It worked just fine the other day. Let's try it again. Let's try another machine. This just can't be happening to me? What is wrong? You know what? I am so tired of my bank. This bank, it's always something. Maybe this is my sign that I should change to another bank. What if someone has hacked into my account? Just what I don't need. Ugh, this is so embarrassing. I'm holding up the line. Oh, maybe I just need to pay in cash. All right. You get the point, right? Yeah, one, you're going with the flow, you're taking it in stride, you're moving on, and the other, man, this became a big, big deal. Sometimes when I'm very centered, I can be in that first mode of operation. As you may have guessed, I wasn't completely there in this situation, although I was aware that I was causing my own suffering. Well, in case you're wondering, as it turned out, I had given my debit card to Richard the previous day to get gas, and I forgot to tell him I had a new PIN number. So I put in the old PIN number 3 times, and it locked the account, all of which was very easily remedied by a trip to the bank. So this is an illustrative example of what happens in our lives all the time. Is it not true? The question is not how did I respond when I'm standing there with my debit card frustrated. The question is how do you respond when life hands you something unexpected, when people disappoint you, things don't turn out the way you thought that they would. You see, anytime we resist what is, anytime we do not accept people as they are, we are going to suffer. And this manifests in our life. You'll notice it in yourself if you're thinking things like, why can't he be more considerate? Why can't she be more affectionate? I'm so nice to this person. Why can't they be nice to me as well? You see, we're expecting something that really isn't going to happen probably. You know, I love what Maya Angelou said. She said, if someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Believe them the first time. You don't have to keep repeating this over and over and over, the same disappointment, the same disillusionment, the same, no, you're not who I thought you were, no, whatever it is. Believe them the first time. Because as long as you continue to insist and press on them and push for them to be different than they are, you really, honestly, you're torturing yourself. And you are torturing the relationship. But it doesn't have to be that way. Instead, we can simply accept what is and go on from there. You see, accept what is doesn't mean being complacent. It means taking that in as information to now inform what we will do going forward. And I love this idea of sort of Eastern wisdom, this idea of so. You're like, so, oh, okay, oh, now this. Now this is what is. Now this is what is presenting before me. Now what? Now what? What am I going to do with this? You see, those are the key questions. Here's the truth. Deep, abiding contentment does not come from our clinging to and craving transient things. It doesn't. The deep contentment lies in accepting what is and appreciating people for who they are. Great freedom in that. And this is really what Jesus teaches when he talks about the kingdom of heaven. So this is reported in the Gospel of the Beloved Companion as well as the Gospel of Thomas. And his disciple Thomas asks him, goes to Jesus, and he says, when will the kingdom of heaven come? Jesus responds, it will not come by watching for it. It will not be said, look here or look there. Rather, the kingdom is spread out upon the earth, and people do not see it. You see, the kingdom of heaven is already here. If we simply have eyes to see it, if we simply get outside of our mind games and our ego games and behold, honestly, the amazing wonders of life. This is the kingdom of heaven. Beauty and wonder of what is. In order to appreciate it, we must, as Dean Slider says, relax into the infinite. Just like the daily word today, find our inner peace, turn within, relax into that. Now I realize that when we let go of an attachment or our preferred course for how things are going to work out or our relationship, whatever it might be, that it feels like we're falling into an abyss. That's how I felt after my divorce. But we're not falling into an abyss. We're really falling into God. We're really falling into infinite love, to this abiding presence, whether you call it God or infinite peace or divine wisdom or the unknown or the way of all there is. We are falling into that, and it is that deep love and presence that will support us and see us through. In fact, we can work on this such that our connection with this presence, our knowledge of spirit within us and all around us becomes our ballast in any storm. It keeps us centered, keeps us in harmony. And the beauty of this is that this wonderful presence is not out here. Well, it is out here, but it's also in here. It's available to us 24/7 if we just remember to tap into it. So once we have done this sort of work and begun to really cultivate our relationship with Spirit, step into that clear consciousness, then we are ready to move to the next of the suggestions that Dean Slider offers for inner freedom, and this is a simple one. Bless everyone. Bless everyone. Blessing simply means to hold good thoughts for them, to send warm wishes for health and well-being. A simple blessing for others is, may the peace that passes all understanding be with you now and always. We can bless ourselves in the same way. May the peace that passes all understanding be with me now and always. May I be happy. May I be free of suffering. May all beings be happy and free of suffering. You see, we feel the fullness of Spirit come in and through us and express as us as we bless everyone. There is nevertheless a little bit of preparatory work that can help us get into that space of being able to bless everyone. And Dean Slider offers a few suggestions on that front. How to really sort of till the soil as we move into being in a place of blessing. Do you have the slide there, Richard? And the first one is renounce resentment. Renounce resentment. You can't bless other people if you're feeling resentful towards them. Feeling bitterness over someone else's success or happiness is not going to shift it over to you. It's not. It only poisons us. It blocks rather than fosters our own happiness. The second one, renounce what is called schadenfreude. Are you familiar with this term? Schadenfreude. This one sounds a little wicked to me, but anyway. It's pleasure derived from the misery of others. So think of any time someone has done you wrong and, in your opinion, has perhaps treated you badly, and by golly, they got theirs, right? And you take a little pleasure out of that. Now they're suffering. They caused you hurt, now they're hurting. Well, that's a toxic way to think and live. Slider writes, the joy we drink from the suffering of a fellow being is polluted at the source. There's a purer, more expansive joy in turning down that cup. Don't get caught in that. Next, forgive others. In particular, make a point of forgiving those who have either withdrawn or perhaps withheld love from you. You see, that's where there's always a particularly tender place. And it's especially important to forgive those because that's how we liberate ourselves. And finally, bless those you have judged. We are called to bless those we've judged as other or less than us in some way, you know what, particularly now, because there's a whole lot of judgment going on out there. Bless anyone that we may be thinking of as an other or as an inferior. anyone we're judging, because when we open our hearts, we really bless ourselves, don't we? And we also experience the truth of the expansive oneness that is all of us, all of us. So we may fool ourselves into thinking that if we just keep clinging on to those expectations, if we just push hard enough, that we're going to get people to straighten up and be the way we think they should be. That's a fool's errand. That's an ego game. Really, if you want to be happy, the surest way to be happy is accept what is, appreciate people as they are. They're beautiful in their own ways. Let go of your expectations. Discover what it means to find happiness in simply being. Be that clearing that allows everything to arise and pass. And then from that fullness within you, bless everyone. Because you in turn will be blessed. And you will know freedom. And you will know peace. Let's turn now to our meditation. I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Close your eyes if you wish. Let's take a deep breath in together. Releasing and letting go. And one more time, a big deep breath in. Imagine breathing in through your heart space. And letting go. And continue breathing in and out through your heart. Feeling the peace of God washing over you. Breathe into this knowing that this divine presence, this source of all love and wisdom and peace is right there within you. And I invite you in this moment to turn your attention to yourself, to consciously acknowledge and then release any expectations you may be holding over yourself, any ways in which you may feel you're not enough or need improvement. In this time, let it go. Breathe into the beauty that you are. Breathe into your uniqueness as an expression of the divine. Imagining for a moment that Jesus or other spiritual masters, ascended masters, whoever it may be for you, is just beaming down unlimited love on you. I invite you to take this into your own heart, to allow yourself to feel this inner peace, the peace that passes all understanding in the silence. We feel gratitude well up within us as we appreciate our life experience, our life journey to this point. The people who have blessed us, the experiences, the ups and downs, all of it. Knowing, deeply knowing that spark of the divine within us that has seen us through, that has cheered us on, that has led us forward. And giving thanks for all that unfolds from this moment. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.